The gunfire at the warehouse did not end the way anyone expected. It ended in fragments. Smoke, sirens, broken steel, and bodies scattered across concrete as armed units flooded the building from both sides of the canal. By the time the scene stabilized, Darius Kane was confirmed dead, Corey Vance was in custody, and Ethan Vance had vanished into the industrial maze beyond the docks without a confirmed trace. Leon Brooks was not found inside. Not alive. Not dead. Not present at all. Just absence. Months passed the way they always do after violence in Liverpool, slowly at first, then too quickly for anyone involved to keep up. The case officially closed under a joint statement. Organized criminal network dismantled, key leadership neutralized, threat contained. But for Rachel Mercer, nothing about it felt contained. Darius Kane's death should have brought relief. Instead, it created silence that felt heavier than his presence ever did. Corey Vance's trial began under national attention. He sat in the dock quieter than Rachel remembered, no longer performing violence but carrying it like weight instead. Ethan Vance remained missing, his name fading into the same category as dozens of others lost inside the system. And Leon Brooks. Leon became a question that no one could answer cleanly. Officially, missing. Unofficially, escaped. In whispers across units, in late-night conversations between officers who refused to file reports, in quiet speculation that never made it onto paper, a different theory began forming. That Leon had never been taken. That he had chosen what came after. Rachel testified in court 3 separate times. Each time, she described the Canal execution with clinical precision. Mistaken identity, pursuit, weapon discharge, forensic linkage, systemic failure. But no matter how carefully she structured the narrative, one truth kept cutting through everything else. Callum Hayes died because he looked like someone else. Not because he was dangerous. Not because he was involved. Because he was replaceable in someone else's confusion. The realization did not fade with time. It sharpened. At night, Rachel replayed the CCTV footage again and again, watching Callum run through the docks, hearing his voice even when the audio was gone. "You've got the wrong lad." And the gun still fired. Mia Doyle's life collapsed in quieter ways. She never returned to anything resembling normal routine. Work disappeared. Friends disappeared. Even her apartment felt like a place she only borrowed between episodes of memory she could not control. Every week, she returned to the canal. Always the same spot. Always the same silence. Sometimes she brought flowers. Sometimes she just stood there until her legs gave out. People who passed her assumed grief had frozen her in place. But Mia knew it was something closer to punishment. Because Callum's face never stopped appearing in reflections. Shop windows, puddles, dark glass. Always just long enough to make her question whether she was remembering or imagining. Leon's absence, however, was different. It did not feel like loss. It felt like continuation. Rachel noticed it first in small inconsistencies. Bank surveillance gaps that never fully resolved. Unregistered phone activity near ports. A blurred figure seen once near a ferry terminal and never again. But nothing concrete. Nothing prosecutable. Just enough to keep the possibility alive. One evening, Rachel sat alone in her office long after everyone had left. Case files were boxed and archived, but she kept one folder open on her desk longer than necessary. Callum Hayes. Photograph. Burner phone. CCTV stills. And beside it, Leon Brooks's last known image. Walking toward the black van without hesitation. Her phone vibrated suddenly. Unknown number. No context. No warning. "You never found Leon." Rachel stared at the message for several seconds, her reflection faint in the dark office window behind her. Then a second message arrived before she could respond. An image loaded slowly. A canal. Not Liverpool this time. Somewhere quieter. Distant trees. Still water. Early morning light. And standing beside it, facing the camera directly, was Leon Brooks. Alive. Not hiding. Not running. Simply there. As if he had always known this moment would come. Rachel lowered the phone slowly, the hum of the empty office pressing in around her. Because if Leon was alive beside another canal, Then the story had never ended at all. It had only changed location. Morning fog rolled across Liverpool like smoke from a dying fire. Rachel Mercer barely slept after watching the CCTV footage. The image of Callum Hayes screaming before the shotgun blast kept replaying in her head every time she closed her eyes. By sunrise, the investigation had already shifted. Not random. Not robbery. A hunt. Rachel stood inside the major crimes office while officers pinned photographs across a whiteboard. Callum's school picture sat beside crime scene images from the Canal. Another photograph had just been added beside them. A young man with sharp cheekbones, cold eyes, and tight dark curls. Leon Brooks. 24, Hughes explained. Known runner in a counterlines operation moving cocaine between Liverpool and Manchester. Arrested twice. Never convicted. Rachel studied the photo carefully. Leon and Callum looked disturbingly alike from a distance. Same build. Same height. Same haircut. The curls, Rachel muttered. Hughes nodded. Street sources say Leon's hair is kind of his trademark. Rachel felt her stomach tighten. Two masked gunmen had chased Callum through the docks believing he was Leon Brooks. A young man had died simply because he looked too similar to somebody dangerous. Find Leon, she ordered. We're trying. Nobody's seen him since the shooting. That worried her more than if Leon had stayed visible. Hours later, Rachel drove through Kensington to speak with Callum's girlfriend. Rainwater slid down rows of tired brick houses while teenagers lingered near shuttered shops pretending not to watch the police car. Mia Doyle opened the door slowly. She looked exhausted already, like grief had aged her overnight. Her oversized hoodie hung off one shoulder, and her eyes were swollen from crying. Rachel introduced herself gently. I just need to ask a few questions about Callum. Mia nodded and stepped aside. The apartment smelled faintly of cigarettes and vanilla candles. Framed photographs covered the shelves. In nearly every picture, Callum smiled awkwardly beside Mia, his hair shorter and straighter than it appeared at the Canal. Rachel noticed immediately. When did he change his hair? Mia looked down at her hands. Couple weeks ago. Why? A long silence followed. Then Mia whispered, after we broke up. Rachel waited. He thought I liked a certain type of lad, Mia said bitterly. Wanted to look tougher. More confident. Rachel removed Leon's photograph from her coat pocket and placed it on the table. Mia froze. That him? Her face lost color instantly. Yes. You know him. Mia stared at the photograph for several painful seconds before nodding once. Everybody around here knows Leon Brooks. But the fear in her eyes suggested something deeper. Rachel leaned forward carefully. Did Callum know Leon personally? Not really. He just copied the haircut. Mia swallowed hard. God, he kept joking that he finally looked dangerous. Dangerous. Rachel glanced around the apartment again. A cracked mug sat near the sink beside unopened messages blinking across Mia's phone screen. Whoever Leon Brooks truly was, his shadow still lived inside this place. What happened after your breakup? Rachel asked quietly. Mia rubbed her arms nervously. Callum changed. Started going out late. Picking fights. Trying to prove he wasn't soft anymore. Did he have enemies? No. Never. Her voice broke. That's why this makes no sense. But Rachel already knew it made terrible sense. Outside, evening darkness settled across Liverpool as she returned to the station. Officers searched Leon's known addresses, but every location was empty. One informant claimed Leon fled the city after hearing about the Canal shooting. Another swore he was hiding nearby, terrified he would be next. Rachel sat at her desk reviewing extracted data from Callum's broken burner phone when a technician approached quickly. You need to hear this. He plugged headphones into her computer and opened an audio file recovered from Leon Brooks's number. Time-stamped only 3 hours before Callum's death. Static crackled first. Then came a man's cold voice. Tonight, we bury you by the Canal. Rachel replayed the message twice more while the office around her slowly fell silent. Somewhere beyond the station windows, Liverpool streets kept moving through the rain, unaware another execution was being planned, and for the first time since finding Callum's body, Rachel realized Leon Brooks was not hiding from police. Rachel Mercer left the station long after midnight with Leon Brooks's voice note still echoing in her head. The city outside looked hollow beneath the rain, every wet street reflecting blue neon and ambulance lights. Somewhere in Liverpool, a frightened drug runner had vanished after an execution meant for him. And somewhere closer than Rachel realized, somebody else was already beginning to crack. Mia Doyle barely slept anymore. Every sound inside her apartment made her jump. Pipes rattling in the walls sounded like footsteps. Passing headlights looked like men standing outside her windows. Since Callum's death, silence itself had started frightening her most. She sat curled beneath a blanket on the sofa while old voice messages played repeatedly from Callum's phone. "Pick up, Mia. You still angry with me? Come on, don't ignore me forever." His voice sounded warm, normal, alive. Mia suddenly switched the phone off before the grief swallowed her again. A knock at the door made her flinch violently. Rachel stood outside holding 2 coffees. "You look terrible," the detective admitted gently. "Thanks." Rachel stepped inside, studying the apartment more carefully this time. The curtains remained closed despite daylight outside. Mia's phone sat face down beside her, vibrating every few minutes with unread messages. Rachel noticed bruising fading beneath Mia's sleeve. "Did Leon Brooks do that to you?" Mia's face hardened immediately. "I already told police I haven't seen Leon in months." "That wasn't my question." For several seconds, Mia said nothing. Then she quietly replied, "Leon liked controlling things." Rachel waited silently. "At first he was charming," Mia whispered. "Protective. Funny. Then he started checking my phone. Choosing who I could talk to. If I ignored him too long, he'd appear outside my work just staring at me." Her breathing became uneven. He always acted calm when other people were around. Nobody saw what he became alone. Rachel had interviewed enough abuse victims to recognize the pattern immediately. Isolation. Fear. Emotional dependence. "What made you leave him?" Mia stared toward the kitchen. "One night he hit somebody with a bottle outside a pub. Nearly killed him." Her voice trembled. "After that, I couldn't pretend anymore." "But you still spoke to him." Mia looked sharply at Rachel. "We checked phone records," Rachel said carefully. "There were calls between you two after you started dating Callum." The color drained from Mia's face. "It wasn't like that." "Then explain it." Mia rubbed her forehead shakily. "Leon doesn't let people leave cleanly. He kept finding excuses to contact me. Sometimes he sounded sorry. Other times," she swallowed hard. "Other times he threatened Callum without directly saying it." Rachel suddenly understood something that made her stomach sink. Callum copied Leon's appearance because Mia once loved men who looked dangerous. But Leon never stopped watching them afterward. The resemblance may have drawn attention exactly where it shouldn't have. "You think Leon caused this?" Mia asked quietly. Rachel did not answer immediately. "I think somebody hunting Leon saw your boyfriend running through Liverpool with the same haircut and build." She paused. "And I think you knew Leon was in trouble long before Callum died." Tears filled Mia's eyes, but she stayed silent. Rachel left an hour later with more questions than answers. By evening, officers still could not locate Leon Brooks. Informants either refused to speak or disappeared entirely after agreeing to meetings. Fear was spreading fast through the streets. Inside her apartment, Mia locked every door twice. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She hesitated before opening the message. A photograph loaded slowly onto the screen. Her apartment building. Taken from outside at night. Mia's chest tightened. Another message arrived seconds later. Different angle. Her bedroom window. Then another. Someone standing across the street had photographed her through the curtains. Mia backed away from the phone in horror. Her breathing became shallow and fast. She checked the locks again before grabbing a kitchen knife from the counter. Another text appeared. "We see you." Tears streamed down her face now. She called Callum instinctively before remembering he was dead. A sudden knock rattled the front door. Mia froze completely. Another knock. Slow. Heavy. She approached carefully, clutching the knife with shaking hands. Every instinct screamed at her not to open it. But curiosity overcame terror. Mia unlocked the door slightly and looked down. Callum's silver necklace hung from the handle, still stained with dried blood. Callum's blood-stained necklace sat sealed inside an evidence bag on Rachel Mercer's desk by sunrise. The image of it hanging from Mia Doyle's front door had spread fear through the entire investigation. Whoever delivered it wanted Mia terrified. More importantly, they wanted police to understand they were always watching. And somewhere in Liverpool, Leon Brooks was still breathing. 3 days later, Rachel finally found him. An informant led armed officers to a rotting apartment block near the edge of Toxteth. Most of the windows were boarded shut, and the stairwell smelled of mold, urine, and cigarette smoke. Rachel climbed carefully toward the top floor while officers searched rooms one by one. Then she heard movement. A figure bolted toward the kitchen. "Police!" Hughes shouted. Leon Brooks stopped only when he saw 3 guns pointed directly at his chest. For several tense seconds, nobody moved. Leon looked thinner than his photographs. Dark circles hollowed his eyes, and his famous curls were hidden beneath a black hood. He raised his hand slowly, breathing hard. Rachel studied him carefully. This was the man Callum Hayes died for. Hours later, Leon sat inside an interrogation room under harsh fluorescent lights. His knee bounced constantly beneath the table while Rachel reviewed files in silence. "You know why you're here," she finally said. Leon gave a dry laugh. "Because somebody else got shot instead of me." Rachel watched him closely. No emotion. No visible guilt. "You disappeared after the murder." "Yeah. Funny what happens when masked lunatics hunt you with shotguns." "Who are they?" Leon leaned back slowly. "You already know the answer. Darius Kane." The name carried weight immediately. Rachel had heard it whispered for years through informants and street reports. Darius controlled Counterline's operations stretching between Liverpool and Manchester, recruiting teenagers to move drugs across northern England. But nobody ever managed to tie him directly to violence. "What did you do to him?" Rachel asked. Leon rubbed tiredly at his jaw. "I robbed him." Rachel waited. 200 grand disappeared during a transfer last month. "Darius thinks I sold him out to rivals." Leon smiled bitterly. "Truth is, I just got sick of being owned." Flashbacks surfaced through fragmented narration as Leon spoke. Drug drops inside train stations. Teenagers carrying knives for protection. Darius Kane sitting calmly inside expensive restaurants while children risked prison beneath him. "You worked for him how long?" Rachel asked. "Since 16. And suddenly you grew a conscience." Leon's expression darkened. "You think I'm the villain here?" Rachel slid crime scene photographs across the table. Callum's body beside the canal. Blood across the pavement. The shattered burner phone. "That boy died because somebody wanted you." For the first time, Leon looked away. Silence filled the room heavily. Rachel softened her tone slightly. "Tell me what happened that night." Leon stared at the table for several seconds before speaking quietly. "I was near the docks meeting somebody who promised fake passports. Then I saw the headlights." His breathing slowed uneasily. "I recognized the van immediately." "The shooters?" Leon nodded. Through broken flashbacks, Rachel pieced together the nightmare. Leon running through warehouse alleys after spotting masked men emerging from the vehicle. Panic spreading through the docks. Another figure suddenly appearing ahead wearing the same curls and dark jacket. "Callum. He looked enough like me in the dark," Leon whispered. Rachel felt anger rising in her chest. "You could have warned him." "I tried." "But you ran." Leon slammed his fist against the table suddenly. "Because they would have killed both of us." The room fell silent again. Leon's breathing became ragged now, haunted by the memory. I heard him shouting. His voice cracked slightly. I heard him say they got the wrong lad. Rachel noticed genuine fear for the first time since his arrest. Not fear of prison. Fear of Darius Kane. You know they'll keep coming, she said quietly. Leon gave a hollow laugh. You still don't understand. Rachel narrowed her eyes. Leon leaned forward slowly beneath the fluorescent light, his expression turning cold and exhausted all at once. They weren't supposed to kill him, he murmured. They wanted me alive first. Leon Brooks's final words lingered in Rachel Mercer's mind long after the interrogation ended. They wanted me alive first. It meant Darius Kane had planned something far worse than simple revenge. Callum Hayes had merely interrupted the hunt. By the following evening, Rachel finally identified the two masked gunmen from the Canal CCTV. Brothers. Ethan and Corey Vance. Their file photographs showed pale faces, shaved heads, and matching scars beneath their eyes from a childhood house fire years earlier. Ethan, the older brother, had a history of aggravated assault and armed robbery. Corey's record was smaller but darker, filled with violent incidents inside juvenile detention centers. Social services knew about them for years, Hughes explained while handing Rachel another report. Alcoholic father. Mother addicted to heroin. They practically raised each other. Rachel flipped through photographs of the brothers as teenagers standing outside burned apartment blocks in Liverpool. Even then, their expressions carried the same unsettling emptiness. They work directly for Darius now, she asked. Mostly collections and intimidation. Meaning executions. Hughes nodded grimly. 3 hours later, armed officers dragged Corey Vance into custody outside a betting shop near Kensington. Ethan escaped before police arrived, disappearing through alleyways behind the building. Corey sat handcuffed in interrogation, looking almost bored. Tattoos crawled across his neck like black vines while Rachel placed still images from the Canal footage onto the table. You chased an innocent man through Liverpool with a shotgun, she said coldly. Corey studied the photographs silently. Then he shrugged. We thought he was Leon. That makes murder acceptable. We weren't meant to shoot him. Rachel leaned forward. But you did. Corey rubbed his jaw nervously now. Everything happened fast. He ran. Ethan panicked. Rachel slid another image across the table. Grainy CCTV from moments after the blast. Two masked figures standing over Callum's body beside the canal. One of them appeared bent over laughing. Corey's face tightened instantly. That's not what it looks like. Rachel said nothing. He laughs when he gets nervous, Corey muttered finally. Ethan always laughs after violence. For the first time, Rachel glimpsed something broken beneath the brutality. The Vance brothers were monsters created slowly through years of fear, addiction, and survival. But understanding them did not erase what happened beside the canal. Where's Ethan now? She asked. Corey stared toward the mirror silently. Meanwhile, across the city, Mia Doyle waited beneath a railway bridge near the docks with trembling hands buried inside her coat pockets. Rain hammered the pavement while distant train tracks rattled overhead. Then Leon emerged from the darkness. His hood covered most of his face, but exhaustion showed in his eyes immediately. You shouldn't have contacted me, he warned. Mia stepped closer angrily. Callum is dead because of you. Leon looked away. You said the money disappeared, she continued. Darius is hunting everybody over it. Tell me the truth for once. Leon's expression darkened beneath the rain. Truth doesn't help people like us. Stop talking in riddles. For several painful seconds, only rain filled the silence between them. Then Leon finally looked directly at her. I never stole the cash, he said quietly. Mia's breathing stopped. Leon's eyes filled with bitterness and disbelief all at once. You did. Mia staggered backward as if he had struck her. Memories flooded back instantly. The hidden apartment key, the gym bag Leon once forced her to carry, the night she opened it alone and saw stacks of cash wrapped in plastic. She buried the memory and pretended it never happened. But Leon's stare told her the truth was catching up to both of them now. Rainwater dripped steadily beneath the railway bridge after Leon Brooks disappeared back into the darkness, leaving Mia Doyle frozen beside the tracks. His words repeated inside her skull with unbearable weight. "You did." For several seconds, she could barely breathe. Every buried memory she spent months trying to suffocate began crawling back into the light. The bag. The money. The lies. Mia returned to her apartment just before dawn and locked herself inside. Her hands shook so badly she dropped her keys twice trying to secure the door. Across the room, Callum's jacket still hung over a chair exactly where he left it. Seeing it now made her chest ache violently. She sat on the floor beside the sofa and finally allowed herself to remember everything. Years earlier, before Leon Brooks entered her life, Mia escaped another man who nearly destroyed her completely. Nathan Doyle had been older, possessive, and cruel behind closed doors. He monitored her phone, controlled her wages, and once slammed her head against a kitchen counter hard enough to leave permanent scars hidden beneath her hairline. By the time she fled him, Mia no longer trusted herself to survive alone. Then came Leon. At first, he felt different. Protective. Fearless. The type of man nobody dared hurt. He bought her meals when she had no money and stood outside her apartment after Nathan tried contacting her again. Leon made danger feel safe simply because he controlled it. Until he started controlling her too. Small things first. Who she spoke to. Where she worked. Which friends were bad influences. Rachel Mercer listened carefully later that afternoon while Mia explained everything inside the interview room. The detective noticed how Mia kept rubbing her wrists unconsciously while speaking about Leon, as if invisible restraints still remained there. "He used me because I was already broken," Mia admitted quietly. "For drugs." Mia nodded slowly. "Sometimes cash. Sometimes packages." Shame filled her voice. "I never asked questions because I was scared of what the answers would be." Rachel remained silent. "One night he gave me a sports bag and told me not to open it." Mia stared toward the table. "After he left, I looked inside anyway." The missing money. There was so much of it. Tears gathered in her eyes. "I thought if I returned it, Leon would keep owning me forever. If I spent it, Darius would kill me." "So you hid it?" Mia nodded again. Then Callum entered her life unexpectedly. He was gentle where Leon was cold. Awkward where Leon was dangerous. He laughed too loudly during films and remembered tiny details about her no one else noticed. For the first time in years, Mia began imagining a future that did not revolve around fear. "We were supposed to leave Liverpool," she whispered. "I saved enough for passports. I thought we could disappear somewhere nobody knew us." Rachel felt genuine sympathy rising despite everything. Mia Doyle was not innocent, but neither was she evil. She was somebody shaped by abuse until survival itself became criminal. "You never told Callum about the money." "No," Mia's face crumpled completely. "And now he's dead because I kept lying." That evening, Mia wandered alone near the Canal docks, unable to silence the guilt consuming her. Police tape still fluttered near the place where Callum died. Water moved slowly beneath the lights, dark and endless. Then she saw him. Callum stood beside the canal wall wearing the same jacket from the night he died. Pale. Motionless. Mia's heart stopped. "Callum." He stared at her silently. Tears filled her eyes as she stumbled forward, but passing headlights suddenly illuminated the empty pavement. Nobody stood there at all. Her breathing became ragged. The grief was beginning to fracture her mind. Hours later, armed police surrounded Mia's apartment building after Rachel obtained a search warrant tied to Leon's statement. Officers forced open floor panels beneath the bedroom while Mia sat trembling on the sofa listening to it splinter apart. Then somebody shouted from inside the room. Rachel entered slowly as officers pulled heavy plastic-wrapped bundles from beneath the floorboards. Stacks of cash. Endless stacks. £200,000 hidden beneath Mia Doyle's feet the entire time. The discovery of the hidden cash changed everything overnight. £200,000 stacked beneath Mia Doyle's apartment floor transformed the Canal execution from a mistaken murder into something far larger and far uglier. Reporters flooded police headquarters by morning while Liverpool streets buzzed with rumours about Darius Kane and the war building beneath the city. Rachel Mercer finally decided it was time to meet the man directly. Darius arrived at the station just after noon wearing a charcoal overcoat and black leather gloves despite the mild weather. No handcuffs. No armed escort. He walked through the front entrance calmly like a businessman attending a meeting rather than a suspected crime boss linked to executions. Rachel immediately understood why people feared him. Darius Kane never raised his voice. He did not need to. He sat across from Rachel inside the interview room with perfect posture, studying her with dark, unreadable eyes. Early 40s. Clean haircut. Expensive watch. Nothing about him resembled the violent men working beneath him. "You've caused me quite a lot of inconvenience," he said politely. Rachel ignored the comment. 2 masked gunmen chased an innocent man through Liverpool and blew his chest apart beside a canal. A tragedy. "You expect me to believe you had nothing to do with it?" Darius folded his hands calmly. "I expect you to prove otherwise." Rachel watched him carefully. No panic. No anger. Just patience. She opened files across the table one by one. Leon Brooks. Mia Doyle. Ethan and Corey Vance. "All connected to you," she said. Darius smiled faintly. Connected is a flexible word. Liverpool connects everybody eventually. Rachel leaned forward. "You recruit abandoned kids. Runaways. Addicts. Teenagers from broken homes." Something cold flickered behind his eyes then disappeared. "They come to me because the system leaves them hungry," Darius replied softly. "I simply offer purpose." Rachel suddenly understood the true danger of him. Darius did not control people through fear alone. He made damaged people feel chosen. Needed. Loyal. Leon Brooks was 16 when Darius found him stealing food from shops. The Vance brothers were children surviving violent foster homes. Mia Doyle was emotionally shattered long before Leon ever touched her life. Darius built his empire by studying weakness and turning pain into obedience. "You manipulate vulnerable people," Rachel said quietly. "No," Darius tilted his head slightly. "I rescue them from becoming invisible." The room fell silent. Rachel changed direction carefully. "Did you order Leon Brooks killed?" Darius sighed almost sadly. "I wanted my money returned." "That wasn't my question." "Violence creates panic," he said. "Panic creates mistakes." His expression darkened slightly. "Your dead boy was unfortunate collateral." Rachel's jaw tightened. Collateral. For the first time, irritation surfaced beneath Darius Kane's calm exterior. "Loyalty matters to me, detective. Leon betrayed people who protected him for years." His voice lowered. "Betrayal spreads if left unanswered." Rachel noticed it immediately. Obsession. Not money. Not power. Control. Anyone who disobeyed Darius became a threat that needed erasing. The interview ended without confession or arrest, but Rachel walked away more disturbed than before. Darius Kane was far more dangerous than the violent men carrying his weapons. Men like Ethan Vance killed impulsively. Darius destroyed lives slowly and patiently until victims no longer recognized themselves. That evening, Rachel finally returned home exhausted. Her daughter Sophie slept upstairs while rain tapped softly against the windows. For the first time in days, the house felt quiet. Then she noticed the package sitting outside the front door. No return address. Rachel opened it cautiously on the kitchen counter. Inside lay 2 red shotgun shells. Beneath them sat a folded handwritten note. Rachel opened it slowly. "Stop digging or your daughter goes in the canal too." Upstairs, Sophie's bedroom floor creaked softly as Rachel's blood turned cold. The new forensic link changed everything Rachel Mercer thought she understood about the Canal execution. If the shotgun had been used before Callum Hayes died, then Callum had walked into something already burning long before Leon Brooks ever ran through the docks. And someone had been feeding that fire for years. But before Rachel could widen the investigation, she needed answers she could actually trust. Leon Brooks agreed to talk again only after 3 days of silence. The meeting took place in a sealed room beneath a courthouse, away from station traffic and leaking corridors. Leon looked worse than before, thinner, eyes constantly scanning the corners as if expecting movement inside the walls. "They're going to find me again," he said immediately. "Not if you stay alive long enough to testify," Rachel replied. Leon gave a hollow laugh. "That's the problem. I'm always alive just long enough to regret it." Despite everything, he agreed to become a formal witness against Darius Kane's remaining network. Names, routes, safe houses, financial handlers. Every piece of information he gave felt like peeling back layers of something far larger than a single gang. Rachel arranged relocation within 48 hours. Only a handful of officers knew the destination. A quiet property outside Widnes, surrounded by farmland and distance from the city. No official listing. No public record. A place meant to disappear inside itself. Leon was moved under armed escort that night. Rachel stayed behind, coordinating final surveillance checks. "You're sure about this?" Hughes asked before she left. "No," Rachel admitted. "But we're out of safer options." For a brief moment, it almost worked. Leon reached the safe house. Communications were secured. Officers rotated outside the perimeter. The system held for exactly 29 hours. Then everything collapsed. At 3:17 a.m., an emergency call came through. Breach confirmed. By the time Rachel arrived, headlights from multiple units were already cutting across wet fields surrounding the property. The front door hung open again, eerily similar to the earlier motel breach. Inside, furniture was overturned, glass shattered, and blood smeared along the hallway wall. Officer Jamie Corbett lay unconscious near the stairs, his face swollen beyond recognition. Rachel dropped beside him immediately. "What happened?" she demanded. Corbett coughed weakly. They knew, they already knew. "Who?" But he slipped back into unconsciousness before answering. Leon Brooks was gone. No struggle signaled a prolonged fight. No gunfire reported by neighbors. Only the aftermath remained, as if whoever took him had arrived with full knowledge of where everything stood. Rachel stood slowly, dread tightening in her chest. Inside the safe house, a small camera feed monitor still flickered. Someone had been watching them. Always watching. Internal Affairs arrived within hours, questioning every officer involved in Leon's relocation. Files were sealed. Phones were confiscated. Officers were pulled aside one by one. And for the first time, Rachel noticed something she could not ignore. People avoided her gaze. Not just fear of the case. Fear of her. "If someone inside leaked this," Hughes said quietly later, "we're looking at someone high enough to see protected movements." Rachel didn't respond. Because she was already thinking the same thing. That night, she reviewed the last available security feed from outside the safe house. Static flickered across the screen before stabilizing into grainy night vision. A black van rolled into frame. No plates visible. It stopped without hesitation. Then Leon Brooks appeared at the door. Alive. Conscious. Fully aware. He walked forward slowly, paused once, then turned back toward the house as if considering something unseen. And then he entered the van willingly. No resistance. No restraint. The door closed. The vehicle pulled away into darkness. Rachel froze the image. Because it was the same van. The same vehicle captured near the canal the night Callum Hayes died. And now Leon Brooks was inside it. The image of Leon Brooks stepping willingly into the black van never left Rachel Mercer's mind. Not because it confirmed he was guilty, but because it confirmed something worse. He had known where he was going. By dawn, intercepted signals from a burned phone trace led her back toward the Canal district once again. Every thread in the investigation, every name, every buried connection seemed to tighten around the same geography like a trap slowly closing. An abandoned warehouse stood half-submerged in fog near the water's edge. No registered owner. No power usage. But movement inside. Rachel didn't wait for full backup. She moved with armed response units toward the perimeter while calling in confirmation for immediate entry authorization. This time, she already knew who she might find inside. Darius Kane was not dead. He had simply moved differently. Inside the warehouse, rusted steel beams echoed with distant footsteps. Crates formed temporary barriers. Dim emergency lights cast long shadows across concrete floors stained with old water damage and newer blood. Mia Doyle was already there when Rachel arrived at the outer entrance. She stood trembling beside the loading dock, holding a small knife she barely knew how to grip. "I didn't want anyone else to die," she whispered. Rachel grabbed her arm immediately. "You shouldn't be here." "I have to fix it," Mia said desperately. "I started all of this." Before Rachel could stop her, Mia pushed forward into the warehouse. Inside, everything collapsed into motion. Leon Brooks stood near the center, wrists no longer restrained, breathing heavily as if recovering from a long struggle. Across from him stood Darius Kane, calm as ever, coat untouched by the chaos surrounding him. And behind them, Ethan and Corey Vance moved like shadows with shotguns lowered but ready. Rachel entered through the side door with weapon raised. "Everybody stop right now," she shouted. No one complied. Darius turned slightly, almost amused by the timing. Detective Mercer. Always arriving at the emotional climax. Leon looked at Rachel briefly, then away again. There was exhaustion in his expression, but also something colder underneath it. "Tell her," Mia snapped at Leon from behind cover. Leon didn't respond immediately. Darius exhaled softly. "Go on, Leon. Let's not keep secrets anymore." The silence that followed felt heavier than the warehouse itself. Then Leon finally spoke. "I did betray him," he admitted. Rachel froze slightly. Leon looked toward Darius this time. "I gave him roots. I gave him names. I sold information to rivals because I thought I could control what would happen next." Mia's breathing turned uneven. Rachel's focus sharpened immediately. "So Callum's death was supposed to be me," Leon interrupted quietly. The words hit the room like a shockwave. Ethan Vance shifted uneasily for the first time. Darius smiled faintly. Finally, honesty. But Mia stepped forward suddenly, voice breaking. "No, that's not all of it." Everyone turned. Her hands shook violently now. "I didn't just hide money," she admitted. "I planned to leave with it. With Callum. With everything." Leon stared at her, expression unreadable. Mia's voice cracked further. "I was going to disappear with both of your worlds." The truth landed in fragments across the room. Rachel felt it immediately. None of them had been innocent. Not Leon. Not Mia. Not even the system around them. Just layers of survival, betrayal, and fear colliding until someone died in place of someone else. Darius watched them all quietly. "You see," he said softly. "This is why order matters." Corey Vance suddenly stepped forward. For the first time, his weapon lowered completely. "You used us," Corey said sharply. Darius glanced at him. "I gave you work." "No," Corey replied, shaking his head. "You gave us permission to disappear." Something broke in Corey's expression then. Years of loyalty collapsing into clarity. He looked at Ethan, then back at Darius, realizing none of them had ever mattered beyond function. Ethan raised his shotgun too late. Corey fired first. The warehouse erupted instantly into chaos. Gunfire echoed violently across steel walls as Darius ducked behind crates. Leon dropped to the ground while Mia screamed and stumbled backward. Rachel fired toward Ethan, forcing him into cover as debris shattered around them. Shotgun blasts ripped through the space again and again, each echo closer than the last. Outside, sirens finally converged on the Canal district. Armed police stormed the perimeter just as another explosion of gunfire tore through the warehouse interior, lighting the fog outside in brief violent flashes. Inside the structure, everything was still collapsing. And as Rachel pushed forward through smoke and echoing blasts, she understood that the Canal was not finished with any of them yet. It was only returning what it had been holding all along. The gunfire at the warehouse did not end the way anyone expected. It ended in fragments. Smoke, sirens, broken steel, and bodies scattered across concrete as armed units flooded the building from both sides of the Canal. By the time the scene stabilized, Darius Kane was confirmed dead, Corey Vance was in custody, and Ethan Vance had vanished into the industrial maze beyond the docks without a confirmed trace. Leon Brooks was not found inside. Not alive. Not dead. Not present at all. Just absence. Months passed the way they always do after violence in Liverpool, slowly at first, then too quickly for anyone involved to keep up. The case officially closed under a joint statement. Organised criminal network dismantled, key leadership neutralised, threat contained. But for Rachel Mercer, nothing about it felt contained. Darius Kane's death should have brought relief. Instead, it created silence that felt heavier than his presence ever did. Corey Vance's trial began under national attention. He sat in the dock quieter than Rachel remembered, no longer performing violence but carrying it like weight instead. Ethan Vance remained missing, his name fading into the same category as dozens of others lost inside the system. And Leon Brooks. Leon became a question that no one could answer cleanly. Officially, missing. Unofficially, escaped. In whispers across units, in late-night conversations between officers who refused to file reports, in quiet speculation that never made it onto paper, a different theory began forming. That Leon had never been taken. That he had chosen what came after. Rachel testified in court 3 separate times. Each time, she described the Canal execution with clinical precision. Mistaken identity, pursuit, weapon discharge, forensic linkage, systemic failure. But no matter how carefully she structured the narrative, one truth kept cutting through everything else. Callum Hayes died because he looked like someone else. Not because he was dangerous. Not because he was involved. Because he was replaceable in someone else's confusion. The realization did not fade with time. It sharpened. At night, Rachel replayed the CCTV footage again and again, watching Callum run through the docks, hearing his voice even when the audio was gone. "You've got the wrong lad." And the gun still fired. Mia Doyle's life collapsed in quieter ways. She never returned to anything resembling normal routine. Work disappeared. Friends disappeared. Even her apartment felt like a place she only borrowed between episodes of memory she could not control. Every week, she returned to the Canal. Always the same spot. Always the same silence. Sometimes she brought flowers. Sometimes she just stood there until her legs gave out. People who passed her assumed grief had frozen her in place. But Mia knew it was something closer to punishment. Because Callum's face never stopped appearing in reflections. Shop windows, puddles, dark glass. Always just long enough to make her question whether she was remembering or imagining. Leon's absence, however, was different. It did not feel like loss. It felt like continuation. Rachel noticed it first in small inconsistencies. Bank surveillance gaps that never fully resolved. Unregistered phone activity near ports. A blurred figure seen once near a ferry terminal and never again. But nothing concrete. Nothing prosecutable. Just enough to keep the possibility alive. One evening, Rachel sat alone in her office long after everyone had left. Case files were boxed and archived, but she kept one folder open on her desk longer than necessary. Callum Hayes. Photograph. Burner phone. CCTV stills. And beside it, Leon Brooks's last known image. Walking toward the black van without hesitation. Her phone vibrated suddenly. Unknown number. No context. No warning. "You never found Leon." Rachel stared at the message for several seconds, her reflection faint in the dark office window behind her. Then a second message arrived before she could respond. An image loaded slowly. A canal. Not Liverpool this time. Somewhere quieter. Distant trees. Still water. Early morning light. And standing beside it, facing the camera directly, was Leon Brooks. Alive. Not hiding. Not running. Simply there. As if he had always known this moment would come. Rachel lowered the phone slowly, the hum of the empty office pressing in around her. Because if Leon was alive beside another canal, then the story had never ended at all. It had only changed location.